Hey, welcome everybody to the Intentional Living Podcast. I'm your co-host, Marty Keller, and with me here is our other co-host, Dan Gutierrez. Good morning and good Happy New Year, Dan.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Yeah, this is our
Another,
this is our first podcast of 2026, and for those of you who might be new to the podcast, this is an exploration of intentional living, which is a process for self-discovery and self-creation that was developed by our mentor, John Donovan, uh, about a quarter of a century ago. It's actually somewhere around the beginning of the millennium. John began this process, and he's been working on it and refining it for the last 25 years. Dan and I have been working with him for a significant portion of that time. And our focus here in this particular podcast is following something that the Greek philosopher Socrates said. He said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And Dan and I met in a men's group that was focused on psychospiritual emotional recovery. John's work came out of the 12-step process, the adult children of alcoholics, as well as Alcoholics Anonymous. And lots of people do this work in different ways around the world, but we have a particular way of doing it. And that's what we explore here on this podcast. So Dan and I have done many of these. Anybody who's interested in any of this items that we've explored in the past, just explore the videos on this YouTube channel, the Intentional Living YouTube channel, and have at it. And today we want to talk about some of the unexpected things that happen in recovery. What the heck can we expect in recovery? What did we come into it expecting? And what are some of the results that we've had, especially things that we weren't expecting, some things that may have caught us by surprise? Because recovery is not a linear process. Wouldn't you say that, Dan?
yeah, I agree. I agree. I still remember well, I won't say the first day in recovery, but the first 6 months where you and I were in the same meeting, and I just sat there at the end of the couch, trying to understand what was happening and figure out what was going on, because I didn't have any understanding of what the principles and um what you guys were talking about. And then I do remember about 6 months later, I had the awareness. I finally understand, I literally uh, use profanity. I finally fucking understand what the fuck you're talking about. I got some insight. And that was 2010. And then I noticed that I reconnected with my dad, and he lived in Madeira, and it was like a 2 hour and 15-minute drive. So I was going down and seeing him regularly, and then I would be in my car, isolated, driving down the road, and then all these things were coming, would start coming because I'd be isolated, and my subconscious was able to drive the car without me constantly focusing on it. And then all of a sudden, some awareness was coming in the car, and I called it my four wheel sanctuary. Just roll up the windows, turn off the radio, and magic seemed like magic was happening. I was meditating or whatever it was. I was getting insights there, and then as I progressed from that, and then I started going to ACA meetings, and and I was very resistant when I got there. I thought I knew things, and I had a sponsor who took me, and she goes, let's see, how many times have you moved in your life? So we did that, and there it was staring me in the face. I had moved some incredible number of times. in my life. And she goes, "You don't think that has an impact on you? No stability, constantly moving, you don't know where you're going. Does that explain some of the traits that you're having?" And it's like, no, everybody did that, being in denial and stuff. And then it's like, after a little while, it's like, okay, that isn't normal. Because I started asking people, how many times did you move as a child? And some people had, moved 2 or 3 times in, 25 years. And I'm going, wow. And what I thought was normal based on the people that I was around being in the military, moving all the time was normal. And so it just little things that keep coming up. And lately, or today actually, I finally allowed myself to come to the awareness or to own and be accountable for. I wouldn't be struggling with what I'm struggling if something hadn't happened in my childhood. And I'm noticing the dysfunction in other people, projecting, seeing myself in other people. And then I found myself describing, it's like, God, I understand why people struggle, because they have this invisible barrier they're not aware of. And then, the thought comes, I'm projecting my stuff onto them. And would I be willing to consider that something happened in my childhood that I'm not aware of? The results that manifest in my life today are a result of the trauma, family dysfunction, my childhood. How about I have compassion for me? And I have this image of a little boy standing, and he looks up and he says, I don't know how to do this. Teach me, and please don't abandon me because I don't know. And ooh, here it comes. There's a resonance with that. And the quote comes, as a child, I was not responsible for the world that created my mind. As an adult, I'm responsible for my mind that creates my world. Not because it's my fault, but because I'm the only one who can change it. That's different than there's something wrong with me. I got to fix it. That's compassion for me. So I can feel safe enough to navigate the ingrained patterns of behavior and create new ones. So I went from I don't have any problems to acknowledgement I've got opportunities for growth and healing.
Well, and it's true that it's my experience that as I do this work, in a certain kind of way, it's like there's a inner bulldozer that's clearing out old stuff, and it sometimes reveals stuff that's even deeper. And the good news is that we now have some very powerful tools to address that new information, those new data that show up that maybe even deeper voices of lack of safety or self-condemnation or uh, unhappiness with reality that can show up after we do the initial coming to peace with our challenges, the things that brought us into recovery in the first place, the things we were looking for relief from. Um, we we're kind of just beginning a journey if we're willing to take the whole journey. Uh, and some people aren't willing to do that. They're content with that initial round of relief, and that's awesome. But people like you and me who have stuck to this, like you said, 2010, so we're talking 15, 16 years, and both of us had connection or contact with this work even before working with John, so it's been longer than that. There's just always new stuff to be revealed. I was thinking about what you were saying about the the continuing impacts of undiscovered or unrealized childhood trauma that we might be experiencing even after we've done a lot of work. And I've noticed something similar to that in working with people as well. And I'm working on a kind of theorem which says something like the persistence of symptoms today is directly proportional to the depth or the virulence of the trauma that we experienced in childhood. I mean, some people had such violent emotionally or and or physically or some even sexually uh, such violence as little children that it's a walking miracle that they have they have any ability to have some recovery because that wound is just so embedded in the psyche, and it generally speaking, those kinds of things need more help than just the accountability work because they're just so embedded. John and I talked about this in the last podcast, which is called Trust the Body, and we were looking at that principle. We have a number of accountability practice principles. Trust the body is one of them, and the the just noticing in our bodies, which is where we get the evidence of what's going on. That sense of like you were saying, and you were actually one of the first people to really talk about this explicitly, which is the notion of feeling safe. That how could a kid whose first encounter with the world had all of this violence in it ever feel safe? By definition, he or she is in a storm. You used the word storm earlier, in the storm of chaos, instability, fear, abandonment. Um, and so it just takes a lot of compassion and willingness to stick in there with ourselves as we go through this process, because there's a little kid inside us, particularly people who have had really traumatic childhood. There's a little kid that just wants to scream, to just scream in rage at the injustice and the pain of it all.
Yeah, I'll support you in that. Uh,
But again, the good news, I don't want to paint a bleak picture here. The good news is there are
no, no.
techniques that can help us, and that the power of this work is that these things get released from the subconscious mind. And once I can see what happened or I can feel what happened, I can actually apply recovery tools to that situation. If I can't see it, if I can't feel it, it's just going to stay ticking away in the subconscious, creating effects that I feel I have no power over.
Yeah, I support you in that too. Um, it's one of it's for me things that I've learned is like, the good news and the bad news is what I say it is. And it's like, okay, how about I say everything is good news?
Yeah.
What I learned about myself, maybe, and I'm consciously using these words because it's like it's painful, you know, it's sad, or I'm angry about it. Um, the good news is I'm present enough to be able to own it, you know. That's part of the recovery. It's like no blame, no judgment about what's happening. And it's a call for healing. The struggle or the, the results that I'm experiencing, they're not problems to be fixed. That used to be the old method, my old thinking. I used to think that I was the problem. So the solution would be to fix myself, and then I will feel good about myself. And it's like, okay, that model has been, I've thrown that one out. That doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I'm the solution to whatever challenges or opportunities for healing. And I understand that I'm going to struggle. It's going to be painful, but the pain is not something to be avoided anymore. I've changed the definition of pain to healing. What I'm experiencing in my stomach, the quote unquote discomfort is me. It's healing. Healing is com is voicing itself, and it's like, okay, rather than be afraid of it, now I move toward it gradually over time, safely, without you got to do this right now. I'm literally teaching myself what I didn't get as a child about my emotional states and my value as a human being.
Is that what
And that
ACA means when they use the term reparenting?
I don't
I mean,
that's an
it sounds like
explanation. It's like how human beings are, the life cycle. They're born, they're raised by caregivers, and caregivers are supposed to give you everything you need, or your parents are supposed to, so you can lead a life of, I don't know, life of what, right? They give you what they have, and maybe a little bit more than what they got. Um, yeah, and it's just reparenting. Yeah, that's a phrase.
well, I just what I heard you say was you're teaching yourself or you're learning to teach yourself what you didn't get when you should have gotten it.
Yeah,
And so now you have we all have this adult consciousness that has the capacity to reach into our inner world and make a difference through that kind of approach.
yeah, and I always struggled with the idea of, the term reparenting. Then there's the higher power, then there's God, and like everything. I decided that the person I'm an only child, so I never had an older brother. So what I'm doing is that I'm creating an older brother who has the wisdom and the patience to be with me and teach me you know um, what I'm struggling with. That's how I envision the relationship.
Sure.
And it's different for everybody. And but this is what I've done because I create the older brother that I wish I'd had. Not not changing my parents. But he's compassionate and he's modeling to me how to be with myself until I can do that for myself. And like I said, that's the external. Uh, we substitute something outside of ourselves that we believe has our back, never leave us, loves us unconditionally. All these things, which in turn, my interpretation is that it creates a safe environment for me to explore, for me to make mistakes, and for me to learn.
Right.
And however I create that environment in my head, you know, that work,
But that's
which is
a, I want to point out that particularly newcomers that this is possible. What Dan's describing is possible because we're all of us born with the power to do this. And it's if we're lucky, we have parents or caregivers or older siblings or aunts and uncles, grandparents who show us how to do that and show us how to activate that power in a sense that is satisfying and fulfilling. Um, Mostly, what we were taught, I was taught, is to activate that power in a way that was defensive and taught me how to run away from intimacy and love and those kinds of things that I really secretly wanted, but concluded, kind of similar to what I heard you say, Dan, concluded that I was never going to get them. There's something I was too flawed to get them, so I just had to make my own way in life.
yeah, or I had to earn it, and I had to earn it in a specific way.
Right.
And I
And
look
and and
back,
you never actually, no matter how much you did that thing to earn it, you never actually got it.
no, but that's the little boy's solution to
Right.
getting. Uh, he's smart enough to figure out that the carrot and the stick, and it's like, well, you do well in school, and we're going to be happy. We're going to be proud of you. Whatever that means. You know, I come home with a good report card, you smile. And when you smile, I interpret that as acceptance and attachment. This is how I can earn the attachment over and over again. And I look at my life and it's been running nonstop running from one achievement to the next. I don't even enjoy the success because I'm already, as soon as I see the finish line, I create another race, another marathon to run to get to the end first. So I can show my little medal and go, now you can love me. Now you have to love me. You see, I am worthy. And it's just, oh my gosh, that's what I'm learning too. And I'm still doing it.
Well, I was going to say that's here we are years in recovery and we still struggle with some of these psychodynamics. I have the same, I mean, when someone says you're doing a great job, I really appreciate you. I love the way you facilitate our meeting. There's a part of me that automatically tries to slough it off, push it away, because there's that part of me, that scared little kid that doesn't believe it's like it's really Lucy in the football. And
Yeah.
and so it's part of what I'm teaching myself is that when people is to trust what people say. I created an intention. It says around this, I intend to feel the love that people want me to feel from them.
Yeah. I support you in that. Yeah. And it's like, love is unconditional, you know. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me to continue to look inward, based on how I'm feeling. There's still room for healing. and I'm aware of it, you know. I had a similar situation yesterday. A gentleman came up to me. He goes, uh, "You're a you're a powerful man, and I really love and appreciate you." And I stopped and I just turned around, and it took everything in me to go, "Thank you, I know." And he goes, "That's right. That's right."
That's what I'm talking about.
He goes, "You're owning it. You're owning it." And I'm going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I am. Just don't ask me how uncomfortable I feel."
But that's recovery. Recovery is
Yes,
noticing that you're still uncomfortable and working on a commitment to own the truth.
absolutely.
And I just want to point out again to the newcomer that we do this work in group setting, um, because everybody. So when I was in a group with Dan, Dan was part of the training wheels for me. Every guy in the group was could see from me what I couldn't see for myself. So I could lean on the group's love and compassion and cheerleading, and so it becomes part of the recovery toolkit that I have people who can see for me what I can't see for myself, just as I can see for them what they can't see for themselves. And so I encourage people to consider being part of if you're not in a group recovery environment, whether it's a 12-step program like AA or adult children of alcoholics, or our intentional living process. It's an accelerant to recovery, working with other people who are all dedicating themselves to the exact same thing.
And I think I agree. And I think part of the family of origin dysfunction is creates created for me, being I'm the only child, is to um, have to figure it out by myself, which is I isolate myself, and there's wisdom in others. And it's not like you said, when I come to a meeting or something, I can learn to trust others as well as myself and see that I'm not alone in my struggle. And and I believe as human beings, we're designed to be in community. And if we didn't receive the dysfunction or the family of origin trauma isolated, there were other humans present.
Right.
So, you know, maybe be willing to consider that healing is also going to take happen in the presence of other humans. And it's a lot more fun doing it with other people. There's a lot to be said about meetings and community. So
Well, what made me think of that is that I was making an assumption, which I could have been wrong about, that the gentleman who came up and spoke to you was in a group setting,
mhm.
and you and I both facilitate intentional living group processes, and so that's partly where we are available for that kind of feedback from people. I know that
Mhm.
uh, I know I freely give that feedback to people. I'm sure you do too in group. And then when people give it to us, there's still that, whoa, wait a minute, energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I
If
can
you only
appreciate
really
it.
knew.
Yeah. So I can appreciate it when I might acknowledge the progress I see in someone else, that they might also feel that same resistance.
Absolutely.
But one
And
thing I wanted to point out, as we're coming to the end of our time together here, is part of the way that you have um, worked your program is you've really done a good job of looking at the language that you use. And really early on in the podcast today, you went to say something, identify something as a problem, and you immediately didn't say problem, you said challenge or opportunity rather. And so that's the, part of what we do in recovery is learn to reframe the the dynamics of our lives. I don't want a unhappy, wounded 4-year-old deciding how I'm going to think about my life. And he did. He was in charge of that for many, many years. What I now choose is to have a fully functional adult make those decisions. And that kind of goes in, it kind of goes along with our theme from Socrates. I don't want to look at the problems of the past as much as I want to create the life of the moment and the future. I can learn from the past. That's part of what recovery is. It's like recovering information about ourselves that we stuffed into the subconscious. You said earlier, you used the word denial. We created denial about, bring it into the light, not only to heal it, but also to learn from it and to apply the lessons that our wounded little kids have to teach us. They have something to teach us. They just don't know how to do that. But as an adult, I know how to learn from what little Marty has to teach me.
I support you in that. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have spent our time together today.
Yeah. And for those
Um,
of you who are interested in our meetings, at the end of the podcast, there'll be a list of the 4 different intentional living meetings that we sponsor every week. They're all on Zoom, and the Zoom addresses will be there. The times and days will be there, and we encourage you to join a meeting, check it out, ask questions, or just come and listen, whatever works for you. This is a process that, for me and for Dan, I'm going to speak for you, Dan. So tell me if
uh-oh.
I'm wrong, but for both of us, has had enormous impact, enormous effects. We've used it to create the life that we want to be living today, and that's not something I expected when I first sat down with John Donovan years ago. In fact,
No.
I was mostly afraid of him.
Yeah, he has that ability. And it's not nothing that he's scary. It's just my
No,
interpretation that
exactly.
um he's going to reveal something about me that I might not want to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I projected that he was my actual father who in my life experience spent a whole lot of time telling me where I fell short.
Yeah, I support you in that.
I'm
Well, then you do another conclusion, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. And I'm still waiting for him to do that. So, all right. Well,
Uh,
thank you for your time, Dan, and thanks everybody for joining us. And like I said, please feel free to check out the meetings, and hopefully there's one that fits your schedule. And until the next time,
uh,
you can have the last word, Dan.
oh, geez. Now I feel like I've got to have to say something profound. Um, ah, the quality of my life is determined by the focus of my attention. So may you always focus on what you want in
I'd say amen.
life. Well, thank you.
Thanks, brother. See you at
Okay,
the next one.
take care.